lines are set, the odds are high. Every bet a test who will survive. Chasing stacks, outlast the crowd. Only the strongest left now. Who's ready to win? This is more than gambling. Let's start the show. It's Last Man Standing.
Welcome to Last Men Standing. If you're new here, we are a Circa Survivor podcast. We're absolutely obsessed with this contest, and today we're going to react a little bit to Week 10, some of the action that we saw last week, and we're here to break down every single game on the NFL Week 11 slate from the lens of Circa Survivor. Here with my partner in crime, Jason Anik. How you doing over there, brother?
Great. Wearing red again. To surprise you, Tony, right? Because I know Tony doesn't love it when we both wear red, but I like wearing red sometimes. So I'm thrilled. You know, Wednesday nights, 7 o'clock, my favorite time of the week. Yeah, there was some carnage last week. I'm excited to talk to you, and I'm excited to talk to you about the National Football League every week, because while we look at this league through a Survivor lens, there's so much every week outside of that. And so it's fun for me to get into that with you, my guy, as well.
Absolutely. And it's a little extra special week because some people might remember before the season started, you and I unboxed this lovely, I'm going to open it up here so everybody can see it here.
Yes.
This lovely Earl Campbell signed jersey.
You did great. You got that
certificate
signature
of
right on.
authenticity
Yep.
here as well. And we promised, we unboxed it. We didn't know what was in the box. We opened it up live. We promised we were going to give this thing away. And we finally decided today is the day. So one of you watching this show is going to get that Earl Campbell jersey in the mail in the next week or so. Producer Mike in the back is going to vote on whoever has the best live comment today. Maybe you make us laugh. Maybe you make us think. Whoever it is getting that jersey. So I'm excited about that too, Jason.
I am, and I like that you said whoever's making us laugh or whoever's making us think, right? Because sometimes we get some really insightful comments that could override someone trying to make us laugh. So if you're not a funny guy or funny gal, don't worry about it. Drop some knowledge. You may walk away with that number 34 and that baby blue. That's fire.
Yeah, it's gorgeous for sure. No doubt about it. You alluded to really briefly the carnage. Let's do a little carnage report here. 769 people go down in Week 10, 490 of them on the Panthers, 261 of them on the Bills. Those were the two that knocked out the most people. But what I want to draw people's attention to, and if we can keep this up on the screen, Mike, Jason, the Broncos barely got by on Thursday, and the Bears barely got by the Giants. So just imagine if those two results had flipped, we'd see 35% more of the field knocked out, and we'd be down to like less than 500. And it wouldn't have taken much because both of those games were really close. We also had single digits go down on the Browns, Bucks, and Jaguars as well. Jason, we have exactly 1,000 people left in Circa Survivor fighting for $18.7 million. I think Week 11 is going to be fascinating. Week 10 was the first week where we really saw the decisions start to become a lot harder. I think there's some tough decisions in Week 11 as well.
You know, smaller numbers on the board, right? But it's a big percentage. What, about 44% of the pool going down? Daddy, we appreciate you. So big percentage going down, but our guy Tony Farmer still alive, baby, right? So I want to hear about your week a little bit, but one text that you sent to me, and I'm not going to give it away, but I'm always saying, Tony, who am I rooting for? Who am I rooting for? And so I'm just going to read the beginning of the tweet and then you go text and you can go. Pulled one off Bills to go Rams at the last minute. Why'd you do it? Let's go. Great move.
Yeah. So there's a couple things. I saw a weather report that it could be heavy rain in Buffalo at some point randomly throughout the game. And I'm like, oh.
In Miami?
In Miami, excuse me. Yeah. I'm like, oh, if Miami gets up early and the Bills are having to fight a heavy rain, that scared me a little bit. And then the line movement. You know, we saw the line movement go from 4.5 up to 6.5 in that Rams 49ers game. And I was already kind of leaning that way, the combination of the line movement with the weather concerns in Buffalo. And then, Jason, the other thing was path diversity. I'm looking at my entries and I'm like, man, I don't have Detroit. I wish I did. I don't have Seattle. I wish I did. I need something to make some of my entries a little different down the stretch and holding Buffalo back. They got several spots I can use them now, including maybe this week. That makes my path forward a little more unique than other people. So it's sort of a combination of those three things.
I agree. And we could go down a very bland road and say, oh, division game on the road. It's not that simple. The Buffalo Bills money line cost me a lot of fucking money last weekend, right? A lot of different reasons. So what do we got? Still alive in Survivor Revival through Survivor Sweat. Okay. Appreciate you, Randy. Yeah. And shout out to everyone at Splash Sports keeping me alive, by the way, in other things. But Tony, I just want to say one thing about the Denver Broncos. You alluded to it. Anyone who survived at this point in the season on the Denver Broncos at all, y'all got horseshoes up your asses, right? They should have lost to the Jets and the Giants in week 6 and 7. So for those of them saving them for this week, that you just had them, right? That Thursday night, you get out of it on Thursday night. Doesn't matter how much you sweat Thursday. You're not sweating Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So congratulations to you. But I just unbelievable in that Bears game. I mean, gee.
Yeah, and thanks for Dog chiming in because he's still alive in Grandissimo. He says, boys, if Denver and Chicago went down, Grandissimo is ours alone. So let's do a quick update there. There's 6 people left in Grandissimo. Remember, they started with, I believe it was 69. They're down to 6 left in Grandissimo. 4 got through on Denver on Thursday.
So does that imply, is this Joe? Is that his name, by the way, Tone?
Yep, sure
does
is.
this imply that Joe is part of a Grandissimo entry?
Yep, absolutely.
Are you kidding me? Joe, you should already be cashing that, and you were on the Seahawks. Unbelievable.
Not
unbelievable.
Bad. Yep.
Unbelievable.
It's getting down to chop time. I've talked to a couple guys who are interested in chopping. Not all 6 are, though, so there won't be a chop this week unless something really catches me off guard. But it is chop territory. It's fair to at least start the conversations. I think a couple of these people have New England this week, so they might be a little more hesitant to chop. But I think next week may be the week that we see a Grandissimo chop. So some people are holding on for dear life, hoping to get through one more week so that they can get into chop territory.
Unbelievable. Joe, you're the front runner for the Earl Campbell jersey because good for you for being alive in that. That's got to be a lot of fun. That's crazy.
Hey, I like this comment. This comment got a little chuckle out of me. This might be up there too. I'll nominate them. John going to be jealous that Jason is twinning with someone else because of our red comment. So, because of our, I like that.
And Trin Daddy, that's a man I know well. Good, loyal cat right there.
Nice.
But Tony, I'm glad you're still alive in this thing, right? 1,000, right? I like your chances. Yep. And, you talk about not having the Lions, a lot of different ways. You're still alive. And, we've talked so much on this show about holiday implications. I didn't sniff November, folks. So doesn't really matter. So you're still in it, baby.
Still in it. And Jason, just get me to Thanksgiving because I feel like Thanksgiving and beyond, I've got a great path. I know a lot of other people feel similarly, but love my path after Thanksgiving. These next couple weeks are the weeks that are concerning for me personally because I don't have the Patriots. I don't have Seattle. And you'd have to say those are probably the 2 teams that you'd want for the next 2 weeks. Seattle with that game against the Titans next week, and then the Patriots this Thursday against the Jets. So without having those in my pocket on my remaining entries, I'm a little nervous for this week, but we're gonna work through it today on the show. And these conversations always help me figure out where I land. So good stuff.
And I will say, this may surprise you, but I had a note on only 1 week the whole year on my spreadsheet, and it was for week 11, and it actually said lot of options. And that may make you laugh. And some of those options are not good options anymore, you can be sure. But I have a feeling that you're going to arrive on some very good options this week. I like the slate this week overall, even if you might not have the Patriots or whatever.
Yep, absolutely. It's an interesting week because there's some teams with some decent point spreads, like 6 or 7 point spreads, but I don't feel great about them, to be honest. So
I hear you.
It's gonna be fascinating for sure. Jason, what were some of your takeaways from this week, whether it be just an NFL takeaway or a Circa Survivor takeaway?
So we could do a lot of time on Mike Vrabel and his coaching at the end of the first half. And I don't want to do a big monologue here on it, but what I want to tell you is that and for those who didn't catch it, go watch it. I don't really want to take everyone back, but he sort of, with a minute 45 left on the clock on first down, sort of took a knee, if you will, almost wanted to run 45 seconds off, prioritized not giving Baker Mayfield and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers the football back under any circumstance. Whether the Patriots scored a touchdown field goal or didn't score, Baker wasn't going to possess the ball. The Patriots were going to end the first half with possession and begin the second half with it. And Tony, I absolutely love the decision making. Mike Vrabel's been all over the clock all season. He's been brilliant. And what I want to tell you is, even if it hadn't worked out, I absolutely love it. Gives the team confidence. It's still a regular season game. I still don't think they're hoisting Lombardi this year. So a lot of people say, oh, if the players didn't bail him out. And I want to say, as a Patriots fan, I loved it even if it didn't succeed, because he's in full control at all times. I'm drinking all the Kool-Aid in New England, man.
Good stuff. I like this comment here. Do we gotta let this person in on the inside
Good
joke?
one. It's a good one. Yeah, I'm hoping that's a joke. That's hilarious. Kel Frendo, if you don't know now, look it up. There you go. But I have a feeling that may be an Earl Campbell joke there. A lot of traps this week.
That was good. Absolutely. Tony, lots of traps this week. Yes, that's exactly what I was just saying. Yes. Absolutely. No doubt about it. All right. So some takeaways for me. Great stuff from you on Mike Vrabel. Always love getting your insights from on the Patriots. Always good stuff. Some takeaways for me. Joe Burrow's back at practice. I know this wasn't something that happened on the field, but I got to mention it because there are massive Circa Survivor implications to Joe Burrow coming back. I'm looking at spots now that I might be able to sneak the Bengals in after Burrow returns. But more importantly, I think this makes the Ravens a little bit less stable on Thanksgiving. Right, Jason? I mean, if you were planning on using the Ravens on Thanksgiving and that's your only team that you had, this is not good news to hear that Joe Burrow is back at practice.
I agree, right? But I don't think he's going to play defense. Right. So that's a factor. and also, too, who's protecting this guy at quarterback, too? Right. So my first instinct was, Joe Burrow. Right. I'm the guy who bet on the Bengals to win the Super Bowl. But that defense, we talked about it last week, one of the worst statistically and in terms of the eye test that we've ever seen in the National Football League. So ultimately, I think it's, to a certain extent, much ado about nothing, because I think this Ravens train is going to keep rolling regardless who's playing quarterback for Cincinnati on Thanksgiving.
Yeah, good stuff. Absolutely. And one more takeaway for me. Denver Thursday night against the Raiders. That was not a great performance. They got the win, but Bo Nix did not look good. Jason, you and I were talking about this in the preseason. We had some concerns about Bo Nix because of some stuff that we read from people who had observed practice saying Trevor Siemian actually looked better than him. The eye test on Bo Nix right now, it looks like he's got happy feet. It looks like every single time Bo Nix throws the ball, he makes his receiver work really hard to catch the pass. He's not getting them in stride. There's times where I'm like, wow, if you had thrown a better ball, you would have got 30 more yards on that pass. I'm glad you like the 8-yard pass, but you could have had a 38-yard pass. You know what I'm saying? So 100%. I have some concerns about Bo Nix and this Broncos team going forward. The defense is phenomenal. Love that defense. But yeah, the offense, I don't know about that.
Well, and a lot of teams in the spot, like the Raiders, would have found a way to put a couple scores on the board, and the Broncos would have found their way not having won 7 straight. Continue.
Yeah, if that was a better team, you're right. I think they would have been in a lot of trouble. My last takeaway here, let's go ahead and pull up the guy with balls of steel, who still has 10, the only person in Circa Survivor who still has 10 entries left. Mike, if you can pull that up, let's look at this guy's path and how he's done it. I'll say it again. The only person with 10 entries left in Circa Survivor. He went Jacksonville the first week, all Rams the second week, all in. Week 7, he gives himself a little bit of diversity. I like what he did here. Now he can use the Chiefs if he wants to on weeks 8, 9, and 10 on Thanksgiving. So he doesn't have to be all in on Thanksgiving. Goes all in with the Colts, all in with the Chargers week 9. And then what a sweat last week. All in with the Bears against the Giants. Jackson Dart goes down, and it allows the Bears to come back. I know he was sweating. Just a phenomenal job from It Starts With a Bet. You are the envy of everybody in Circa Survivor having 10 entries left. We're all going to be fascinated to see what you do going forward. Are you going to start to diversify more? Are you going to stick with this all-in strategy? It's going to be really interesting to see, but congratulations. My hat goes off to you. A lot of respect.
Is he still alive after watching the Bears on Sunday?
Yeah, he's alive in Circa Survivor, but is he alive?
I mean in real life, right? Because I don't know if I would have, right? I mean, it was like I retroactively sweated that game when I saw his handle with 10 on the Bears. I couldn't believe it.
Absolutely. Love that comment. He says, love the show. He just found us last week. Jason, I'm seeing a lot of that. A lot of people have sort of discovered us the last couple of weeks. Our Twitter followers are up to 3,000 right now. We're growing quickly. By the way, if you are watching on Twitter, go ahead and give us a like. If you're watching on YouTube, give us a thumbs up. We really appreciate that. It makes a big difference in the algorithm.
we got time. I'm going to back you up for a second. Please follow us everywhere at Last Men Pod. But isn't it fascinating that 2024 quarterback class, right? You talk about Bo Nix, right? I don't know. Michael Penix Jr. on the microphone. We're going to talk about him later, but I mean, he's a disaster. I'll talk more about him later, but it really is interesting. Jaden Daniels, durability, right? Drake May, everyone anointing, right? It's still early. The recency bias with the sports fan in America is just unbelievable, right? It's like, there's a lot of evolution with this stuff. And I think with Bo Nix, I'm with you. There's some things I'm not liking, but I also think, right, it's an evolution. He's still a pretty young guy in his NFL career. So
very true. Hey, you brought up May. I've got to ask, what do you think about Drake May in the MVP market? You think he can take that one home?
No, and I don't think he should. Matthew Stafford is the guy. Matthew Stafford since week 420, touchdowns, no interceptions. I'm not sure why Drake May isn't. Drake May threw a horrible interception last week that maybe could have cost them the game. Jonathan Taylor to me would get my vote if I were a voter. So that noise for Drake May, I hope it dissipates. But at the same time, if you want to go 15-2 or 14-3, it might be hard to ignore them.
Yeah, they take the AFC East. I mean, it was Bills. Bills are going to win the AFC East. Who's going to finish second, third, and fourth was the conversation when the year started. So he certainly deserves some of the credit for that. And Mike Vrabel in the Coach of the Year market as well. All right. Yeah, good call there. Those are, when you see it right in front of you like that, man, there's a few disappointing guys on there. And I still don't know how I feel about Caleb Williams. I think I'm starting to sour on that guy for sure.
Interesting. Yeah, it's fascinating, right? And Ben Johnson having such an impact on their overall what they do play to play from scrimmage. You wonder how much of it's the QB.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's go ahead and pull up the projections here from Survivor Atlas. We love the folks over at Survivor Atlas. They do these projections every week. And they change. They're fluid. These are their projections on Tuesday. If you log into survivoratlas.com, you'll see they update them throughout the week, so you'll see something different on Friday. But right now, they've got the Patriots on Thursday night, 34% projected. The Texans against the Titans, 32% projected.
It's a big number by Davis Mills' name. Go ahead.
Man, we're going to talk about all these games, but the Ravens, 14% projected. The Steelers, 8%, and Atlanta, 4%. I tell you, I don't think the Patriots are that vulnerable at 34%. We'll get into these games, but that 32% on Houston, we could have another carnage-filled week this week after already having some carnage last week. So it's going to be really, really interesting to see for sure. Before we move on and talk about that Thursday game, let's go ahead and pull up our little spot here from the folks over at Splash Sports, who we really appreciate.
Sports fans, don't miss out on the action right now at splashsports.com. Join leagues and enter massive contests with guaranteed multi-million-dollar prizes. Splash Sports brings the contest experiences straight to your phone in over 40 states with even more ways to play, compete, and win all season long. Finally, a way to play the games we know you love against your friends for real money. So get in the game and download now on iOS or Android, or play on the web at splashsports.com. So Tony and I haven't exactly hit it out of the park with some of these splash contests that we've entered. Little tricky though sometimes when you're picking three teams. Yeah. Every week Jason Movie Mike Survivor picks walking into the octagon. I love it. All right, that's a pretty good comment right there. I feel you. That's funny. I'll get my brother. I got some buttons here with my brother's voice on. But anyway, Tony, we're on 4 contests this week. I'm going to tell you a little bit more about them at the end of the show. 2 in particular, just quickly to mention now. One of them, 350,000 extra bloody survivor week 11. We got to pick 3. And then we're also entering this 2,500 smaller one where we're selecting 2 touchdown scores, but they got to be on different teams. So we select 2 and an alternate. And then there's some other things. There's also a small survivor that we're doing, Tone, where we just pick 1 team.
Nice.
So back to the sort of normal thing. So I got some things for you. We'll get into some specifics, maybe make those picks toward the end of the program.
That sounds good. And if you're watching on YouTube, the links for these contests, or at least a couple of them, are in the description. If you want to play with Jason and I, we'd love to compete with y'all. We're not going to take it easy on you though, even though we love you guys as our listeners. All right. Thursday night football. Let's get into it, Jason. Jets at Patriots. 51.5% of people have the Patriots available. You know, Jason, what I love about there being exactly 1,000 people left in this contest, it makes the percentages really easy. 515 people. Right. 51.5%. Just move that decimal point over. The temperatures of this game, it's going to be in the 30s. Cold, but not a bunch of wind or anything like that. That should really affect the game. Jason, do you remember the week that you went out in Survivor, I asked you that question. I said, are you jealous that you don't have the Colts this week? And at first you said no.
Yeah, thanks for the reminder. I do remember it. I do remember
Sorry
it,
to be that
Anthony.
guy.
I do remember it.
I feel like I'm on the other end of that question this week because I don't have the Patriots, and that's the team that I wish I had. If I had New England, I would absolutely fire away on New England on Thursday nights. A lot of people on Twitter giving some arguments for why you shouldn't take New England this week in Circa Survivor. I just don't agree. I think New England is the play, even though they are going to be high owned. It's just too good of a matchup. Jets, we know they trade away Sauce Gardner and Quinnen Williams. Now Garrett Wilson is out as well. So that was a roster that was already shaky. I think the only way the Patriots lose this game, in my opinion, and I want to get your take, is if they just take the Jets lightly and don't take this game seriously. And with Mike Vrabel as the head coach, I just don't see that happening. So I love New England here in this spot. Now, New England does have a couple spots later. Giants week 13, Jets week 17, Dolphins week 18. I've said it on this show several times. I'd love to have the Patriots in my pocket for the last 2 weeks of the season because Jets Dolphins is a dream way to finish the season. That said, I would still fire away here without hesitation on the Patriots if I could. What are your thoughts, Jason?
I agree. Hard not to like New England if you have them available, and they don't need to play their best game. And I've been saying it all year, really, about the Patriots. They have margin for error. They're so damn good that they cannot play perfect games and continue to win. True. So for the Jets last week, a kickoff return and a punt return, both for touchdowns. They needed that to beat Cleveland. They gained only 169 yards total. The Jets from scrimmage. Fields, 54 yards passing, 42 of them were on some dump off to Breece Hall that went for a touchdown. There's a reason the spread was 12 when I prepped this game earlier, 13.5 now. And in terms of the Patriots' future value on the schedule, I think this is still the best spot for several weeks, right? At Cincinnati. If Joe Burrow is flirting with playing on Thanksgiving, I'm not suggesting that he might not be available to host the Patriots on the 23rd of November. Stranger things have happened. So, and against the Giants, there's a lot of volatility with that organization, and that's a really tough defensive front. So to me, this is the best spot if you have the Patriots. I think this is one of our smoke them if you got them spots. Last call for alcohol. If you have the Patriots, have a good night Thursday night, tomorrow night, and enjoy the game Sunday because you will have gotten through. And your point about taking them lightly, Mike Vrabel, you're no chance. Can you imagine how he's building them up? And again, I don't think they need to play a perfect game to win.
Yeah, a lot of great stuff from you there. Jason, there's some conspiracy theories that I've seen on Twitter. People saying that the reason that we've had these upsets in these Thursday night games is because the NFL wants to keep it close for Amazon. I don't know if I buy it, but there sure has been some wacky stuff happening on Thursdays, some unexpected things. You buy that at all, even 1%?
Nope. I'm not a conspiracy theorist guy, especially with the greatest league on the planet, right? I'll toe the company line for the NFL.
Jason is protecting the shield. That's what he's doing right now.
Exactly.
Commanders at Dolphins in Madrid.
Well, Tony, last week I was saying that the Packers were like check their bank accounts for LaFleur and Jordan Love. So maybe I'm protecting the shield.
Good call. 92.4% have Washington available. 99.2% have Miami available. What I find interesting about this game, Jason, is about 2 or 3 weeks ago when the Commanders were a little more healthy before Jaden Daniels broke his arm. You look at the schedule from a Circa Survivor perspective and you say, you know what? I think this is a sneaky spot to use the Commanders against a really bad Dolphins team that might be the worst in the NFL. Now, all of a sudden, the Dolphins are favorite because Washington has had injuries and the Dolphins are actually showing some signs of life. So it goes from a maybe I want to use the Commanders to I don't think I want to touch this game, but maybe the Dolphins. Could you make an argument for the Dolphins here, Jason, or you want nothing to do with it?
From a Circa Survivor standpoint, nothing to do with it. And Joe Osborne, friend of the program, I love me some Joe Osborne, great handicapper up in Canada. He's a Dolphins fan. And he did a funny bit last week. He's like, so they blow out the Bills and they blow out a team. And so it wouldn't surprise me if the Dolphins, after blowing out the Bills, shit the bed in Spain and give one back to the Commanders and sort of don't show up. I don't know if it was AI or not. I don't think it was, but Mike McDaniel was driving to a Bills bar, a Bills hangout down here in Miami post-game to sort of check it out and sort of be seen, if you will. I love that. But no, I like Miami quite a bit here, but I wouldn't touch it in Survivor. And from a Commanders standpoint, right? Gosh, I feel sorry for those fans, right? And when I said a lot of options this week, yeah, the Commanders are one of those options. They're the underdog in the game. And gosh, after getting to the Final Four last year with Jaden Daniels, I think Dan Quinn, if I were them, I'd cut the cord at the end of this year. I don't think he's that dude. And if you give him another year, how long does it go? Jaden Daniels, big question mark from a health standpoint. Yikes. But Tony, I want to ask you the same question. I kind of like the Dolphins quite a bit in the game. Seems like maybe you do. Is that a consideration, zigzag?
I definitely lean Dolphins. It would get you on an island, but I can't do it because it doesn't pass that can you sleep at night litmus test.
Yeah.
With $18.7 million in the line, if you go out with your last entry or you got 3 entries and you go out with 1 entry on the Dolphins, you say, what the hell was I thinking? And you beat yourself up all off season long until September again. So for that reason alone, I can't do it. Hey, I want to remind folks, because we had a lot of people join us since we mentioned this last, we're giving this baby away today, the signed Earl Campbell jersey. So we're giving it away to whoever has the comment that makes us think. Oh, it's upside down. Jeez. That makes us think or laugh the hardest. So keep those comments coming. We love
some good comments so far.
Yeah.
From Mike Jones to choose from. So keep firing away. Talk some smack.
The bar has been set pretty high. Before we move on to Panthers Falcons, the Zero Dark 30 part 2, we're going to go ahead and run a spot here for Survivor Sweat. If you're in Circa Survivor, you have to go to the marketplace at survivorsweat.com. You can shop for entries that other people have registered or sell a percentage of your entry. Get knocked out early and suffering from FOMO? Head over to survivorsweat.com today and see which entries are available for sale.
So, Tony, I want to say something about this Survivor Sweat, right? If you want to know the truth, this may surprise you. I'm more regretting not selling an entry than not buying. Now, when we got down to 1 entry, and especially when we started the year with 4 entries, me and my brother John, when we got down to 1, and especially 0, he wanted to buy back in. And I don't regret that as much. When we got down to 1 entry, I just felt as though I was like a college football player playing in the NFL and I wasn't ready to an extent. I was like, we're down to 1 entry. I was like, John, we're not taking this all the way, especially with your aggressive fucking approach. So maybe we get 5-6 grand for this thing. And we had played it very aggressively. So I think our entry had value. So in terms of Survivor Sweat, in terms of that marketplace, continue to check it out. There were a lot of opportunities for me, I think, early in the year that I didn't do anything. But for those that itch to get back in that aren't in Vegas or want in this contest, get in.
Yeah, and good call. That, I mean, you can sell 1%. You can sell 10% or 8% or 7% without pick control and still keep going. So it's a nice way to kind of get some equity as you move along. I mean, at this point, you can easily, even if you bought in with 10 entries, you can get that back and sort of be playing with house money at this point. And
you last year, Tony, I'm not going to disclose anything, but you made a nice chunk selling one of your entries or a piece of it last season.
Yeah, I'm happy to share that. I made 30 grand I sold an entry for last season, was very happy with that. I have a family member this year, Jason, who I think has the record for the best sale on Survivor Sweat so far this season, at least in terms of the value, 25% for 8 grand. So valued at 32 grand. That was a family member of mine. So yeah, it's a great thing. Check it out, survivorsweat.com. All right, Panthers, Falcons. 99.8% of people have Atlanta available. As we alluded to, this is a rematch of the Week 3 game that we call Zero Dark 30, where the Falcons were unexpectedly upset 30-0 against these Carolina Panthers. Jason, I went back and I looked at that game, and I'm like, I just want to understand what the hell happened. Time of possession in that game was pretty equal. The Falcons actually had more yards per play in that game than Carolina, even though they lost 30-0. The difference in that game was 2 things. The Falcons were 0 for 3 on 4th down. Carolina was 2 for 2 on 4th down. That makes a difference. But Atlanta had 3 turnovers, 2 interceptions. One was returned for a touchdown, and the other one was returned 54 yards. And that was really the difference in the game. So what I'm trying to say here is it was an ugly final score, but I don't look at it as a situation where Carolina just made Atlanta look bad, were the much better team, et cetera, et cetera. I don't want to call it luck, but there's a little bit of luck involved, for lack of a better way to say it. And I think Atlanta is going to be a lot more competitive this week with revenge on their minds.
I agree. And for the 490 entries that went out on Carolina last week, like Bryce Young. I mean, gosh, I feel for y'all. Anyone who went out on the Panthers last week, because just unbelievable. I don't believe in either one of these teams. I don't trust Atlanta at all in Circa Survivor, period. But I do like them to get a win here if you're asking me to handicap the game. They just faced the AFC's maybe two best teams in New England and Indianapolis. And I said to you after the Patriots game, the Falcons did a lot of good things against the Patriots. And frankly, they should have beat the Colts, right? Kurt Warner during that broadcast, I must have said 6-7 times, oh, Michael Penix wants to have that throwback, And then he gets on the microphone and someone asks him, like, who do you go to on the sidelines? Mike, who do you go to on the sidelines to talk to you? When during the game, he's like, do you have a veteran quarterback? Right now? He's like, nobody. He's like, after the game, I go home. My fiance makes me feel good, win or lose. And then I'm calling my high school and college coaches. Like, I saw him on the microphone juxtaposed to Drake May. And I'm just like, if I'm an Atlanta Falcons fan, no, he's not it. Raheem Moore's not it. Like, what a nightmare. But anyway.
I didn't catch those comments. That's interesting, though.
What's that? Oh,
I didn't catch those. That's fascinating.
It was unbelievable. But I do believe that this Atlanta team is so talented that I do kind of like them in this spot. They're not totally out of it. I believe this is their only game in 5 weeks that's home. So I just, I don't know. There's certain quarterbacks that just Penix, like he needs to go. Trevor Lawrence, like some of these guys, they can't make simple throws. They put guys in bad positions to be concussed, or they're throwing fastballs all the time. But the mediocrity of some of these quarterbacks can really set the franchises back. So I don't know, man. I like Atlanta, but I would not trust them in this contest.
Absolutely. I'm going to nominate this next comment as a makes you think winner here. Tough spot for a team traveling back to Europe. You and I haven't mentioned that yet. That's a very good point. Cannot trust Penix or Young in Survivor. Falcons at home should cover the spread as they are the better team. I like that. You mentioning that they're coming back from that game against the Colts for sure. We had another comment here coming in. Packers are a good play too. Winston is going to suffer. Hey, you're getting ahead of the game. Ha ha ha, Flyer. We haven't even got there yet.
I very much like that take. I'm not sure if I agree with it yet, but I like that take.
Couple more things for this Panthers-Falcons game. Guard Chris Lindstrom and wide receiver Drake London not at practice today for Atlanta, so certainly monitor their practice availability later this week. The Falcons, I mean, you pretty much said it, Jason, but they're just such a Jekyll and Hyde team. How you beat the Bills and look so good against the Bills and then put up that stinker against the Panthers. It's like, who is this team? What's their identity? I don't feel good taking them, but there's some people that don't have a lot of options left and are going to kind of be forced to, and I understand in that situation for sure. Next up, Bucks, Bills, 18.3% of people have the Bills available. I already have a ticket in my account on the Bills money line. Really like them here in this spot. Although Bucky Irving and Chris Godwin are back at practice today for the Bucks, so they might actually play. Baker Mayfield looked solid last week against the Patriots. I know you had a close eye on that game, Jason. I was starting to worry about Baker a little bit because the 2 games before that, he kind of looked mediocre against New Orleans and Detroit. And so it was nice to see him put up some good numbers there last week. 55% chance of snow showers in this game. You got a team from Florida maybe playing in the snow in this one. Certainly got to like that angle for Buffalo. But with 18.3% of people like myself that now has Buffalo available, you got to start looking ahead to the schedule and saying, where am I going to deploy Buffalo? And ideally, you're going to deploy them in a spot where they're a favorite, of course, but also where a lot of other people aren't going to be on them. And preferably, you get a cherry on top if it's in a week where there's carnage, which, of course, we don't know until the week's over. But what I'm trying to say here is it's not a bad move to use the Bills in this spot because it checks a lot of those boxes. I'd like the point spread to be a little higher than 5.5 when I deploy Buffalo, but it still checks some of those boxes. So I think the Bills could be in play for me this week, Jason, but I'm leaning away from it. But by the end of the week, maybe I come around to it. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, the future value on the schedule is, there's a lot of variables there. You do have the Bengals at home, but if Joe Burrow's there, that could be a different football game. I'm seeing 80% chance of rain. So whether it's snow, whether it's rain, sloppy conditions, I prefer the Bills versus the Bucks in those conditions. I just think it's a great bounce back spot for the Bills. I like the Bills quite a bit. It's not going to surprise me if Bucky Irving and Chris Godwin don't play, but the fact that they're back at practice, I think is interesting. The Buccaneers team against the Patriots last week, who I like to beat New England last week, and I'm certainly, as a Patriots fan, happy with the result, but the Buccaneers still just aren't healthy. And Baker Mayfield, he has these moments where when you're rooting against him, you're glad that Baker Mayfield's the opposing quarterback. You're like, he's going to miss a throw here. He's going to throw it at the guy's feet and they're going to get off the field and they're going to punt. Or Baker's going to make a decision here. One of the things I really like about Drake May, he's made a couple bad decisions the past few weeks, but by and large, the brain, and he's not making bad. He's making very good decisions all the time. Baker Mayfield, despite slinging it and being the toughest guy out there, wait till the postseason and he turns it over and sends your team home. I think Buffalo might blow Tampa out here. I like Buffalo a lot, but Buffalo, after last week, to trust them in Circa Survivor, right? When you can run all over that team. Look what Devon Achane did, right? The Baltimore Ravens are 4-5. The Bills are 6-3, right? Had week one, Derrick Henry not spit the ball up. Ravens are 5-4. Bills are 5-4. I just don't think this Bills team passes the eye test as an elite team. So it would scare me in Survivor. But from a gambling standpoint, I'd be lying to you if I don't love them in this spot.
Yeah, I think we're really on the same page here. You had to like what Travion Henderson did last week to this Bucs defense. I got to think James Cook is going to be licking his lips right now, ready to find some big running lanes against this Bucs defense, which has struggled against running backs several times earlier this season. Chargers, Jags, 72.1% of people have the Chargers available. Jason, I think this is a under-the-radar fantastic spot to use the Chargers here against the Jaguars. The only reason I wouldn't is because week 13 against the Raiders off of bye is a much better spot in terms of win percentage and stuff like that. However, most of the field who has the Chargers available is going to be on them in week 13. Do you want to be on the chalk that week? If you're looking ahead to the Chargers schedule, they finished the season with Philly, Kansas City, Dallas, Houston, Denver. I think you agree with me. You're probably not going to want to deploy them in any of those games. Maybe Dallas, but that feels like a stretch. So if you have the Chargers left, which most people do at this point, it's either this week or week 13. And if you have multiple entries, if you got like 8 left or that guy we saw earlier who has 10 left, you're either going to be all in with them week 13, or maybe this is an opportunity to sprinkle a little Chargers this week if you have multiple entries, and then a little bit week 13 to give yourself some path diversity. I would recommend that this week. I like the Chargers matchup a lot. Jaguars banged up. No Travis Hunter. No Brenton Strange, he has 20 catches so far for the Jaguars this season. Their other tight end, Hunter Long, didn't practice today. Anton Harrison, their right tackle, wasn't at practice today. Keep an eye on him. Chargers are getting healthier. Jaguars are getting less healthy. Love the matchup here for the Chargers.
Absolutely agree with every word out of your mouth. Love the Chargers here. I think it's a great zigzag spot. Their offensive line injuries still give me pause, right? Because they're still not. I mean, Tony, how would you assess their offensive line right now? I know they've lost Alt for the year.
Well, as Elijah just chimed in, he's saying they're one of the worst offensive lines in the league. I don't agree with that. I think when they're banged up with 3 backups, like we've seen at times this year, but Hart was full participant at practice today, so he's going to be in there. And they made that trade for Penning. I think that's going to, help not be a difference maker, but help plug some gaps a little bit. I think the Chargers offensive line is probably average. I don't agree that it's one of the worst offensive lines in the league.
Well, that would be the only reason that would give me pause, and I wouldn't go as far as the commenter did, but I'm in full fade mode on the Jaguars after last week, up 29-10 going into the fourth quarter, get outscored 26-0. I mean, I absolutely love the Chargers here. I can't wait to see how I'm going to be wrong. Right? I can't wait to see how I'm going to be wrong on this football game in the National Football League. I absolutely love the Chargers. And from a Circa Survivor standpoint, your point's very well taken. You could be sure that game in week 13 against Vegas, right? But I also, that's off the bye. But I also like going into the bye sometimes too, right? Jim Harbaugh said, let's go into the bye and get a win into the bye against a team that doesn't maybe want to even be there, right? Now, Liam Cohen, right? I don't like the body language after losses. This guy, I don't know if this guy's quite ready. And one quick thing about Travis Hunter. When the New England Patriots won their regular season finale in week 18, Gerard Mayo and Jacoby Brissett win gate week. They deprived themselves of the number 1 overall pick, which we thought as Patriots fans, if you have the number 1 pick, it's going to be Travis Hunter, maybe Abdul Carter, but it was going to be Travis Hunter. It's fortunate sometimes how things work out. Travis Hunter may be all the rage, but he's not playing on offense or defense. And Will Campbell just quietly going about his business in New England, protecting that blind side for 15 years, showing up at Celtics games with Drake May. Anyway, I love the Chargers. Sorry.
Absolutely. Hey, one other thing schedule-wise I think is interesting for the Jaguars here. So they got 2 road games, then they come back home in this spot, and then 2 more road games. So this is sort of the sandwich spot in the middle of 2 road games. And I'm just thinking these guys have lives. These players have lives. They're going to want to be planning things with their family this week because it's the 1 week out of 5.
It's interesting
that they're actually home. You got the holidays coming up and stuff. I just wonder how focused those guys are going to be after a devastating comeback loss at the hands of the Texans last week. All right, moving on here. Bears at Vikings. Vikings are 8-1 straight up in their last 9 games against Chicago. I don't know how much that matters, Jason, because it's a new head coach in Chicago, but I just thought I'd throw that out there. Vikings have had a lot of recent success. 68.3% of people have Chicago available. 86.7% of people have Minnesota available. Tough for me to have conviction on either side here, Jason, because honestly, if I ranked all the teams in the NFL that I think I know, these guys are at the bottom of the list. I'm still making up my mind on how I feel about the Bears and how I feel about the Vikings. Yeah, Chicago's won 6 of their last 7 games. None of those wins were really convincing. And yeah, the Vikings have lost 3 of their last 4, but they played Eagles, Chargers, Lions, and Ravens. 4 of the best teams in the NFL. So I think that's a little misleading. I don't know how I feel about these teams. One thing I'll say before I turn it over to you, J.J. McCarthy has a hand issue. We might be putting the injury-prone label on J.J. McCarthy here pretty soon. Because he's already missed a lot of time. Now he has a hand injury. I'm a little concerned about your health, J.J. McCarthy, but what do you think about this game, Jay?
Well, and you talk about J.J. McCarthy's health. There were spots early in the season where you were like, he might be healthy enough to play, and they're just keeping him on the sideline. They didn't even know how ready he is. He certainly shows flashes, right? Goes and wins a game at Detroit. This is my 10-foot pole game, Tony. I wouldn't touch it with a 10-foot pole. I always like when we're seeing the board a similar way. I have in my notes, very similar to what you said, no feel for this one. Can see it going either way. Bears lost week 1 to Minnesota. If you recall, J.J. McCarthy threw that bad pick in the 3rd quarter. Then he gets in the huddle and he's like, where would you rather want to be, fellas, right? Gets in the huddle. Then he is part of 3 fourth-quarter touchdowns that day. So I do sort of like this revenge spot for the Bears, who are the better football team against an inferior opponent. I really do believe you are what you are to an extent. So yeah. I lean Bears with that plus number by their name, but from a Circa Survivor standpoint, no thanks.
Yeah, I think we're pretty much on the same page there. We have a comment here. Love the Earl Campbell jersey, but where do I get a Circa hat? See, this is the problem, Jason. When we encourage people to make us laugh, I don't know if he really doesn't know where I got the Circa hat or not, or if he's making a joke, but you get the hat when you sign up for Circa Survivor for people that don't know, just in case that wasn't a joke. If it was a joke, I like it.
And it doesn't come with the perfectly curved brim. You got to curve the brim like Tony Farmer curves his own brim.
And I cut the string off, too.
Bill.
I got a comment from House on Twitter this week. He's like, where's your string? I don't like the white string, man. I cut that off.
My brother cuts those off too.
Yeah,
hey, Elijah, you can have Tony's hat because he's going to get a jacket this year.
Ooh, I like that.
I'm serious.
I like that. Put that out. Manifest that. I like that a lot. By the way, this hand injury for McCarthy, someone asked him to describe the injury. He said, if you get your hand slammed in a car door, it's going to feel different for everything you do with that hand. That doesn't sound good. I don't know that I want to be trusting that guy.
I assume this is the non-throwing hand, though.
I assumed it was his throwing hand. Maybe somebody can fact check that for us in the comments. Was that J.J. McCarthy's throwing hand or not? That is injured.
That was slammed and said car door.
It wasn't literally, but he says it feels like that. That's not a good thing. Not at all. By the way, this is a rematch of the game week 1 when the Vikings won by 3. The Bears had 127 penalty yards in that game. Moving on. Packers, Giants. This one certainly has some Circa Survivor implications, Jason. 22.7% of people have the Packers available. I have an entry with the Packers available. Slight chance of rain in this game. If you remember back preseason, we had Ken Ruckers on, former Green Bay Packer player, former Green Bay Packer Hall of Famer, Super Bowl champion. We asked him, what's a game on this schedule for the Packers? Do you think a lot of people think they're going to win, but it's actually a little bit of a trap? He identified this game at the Giants. Looks like we're getting Jameis Winston in this game. Packers have lost 2 straight. Are the Green Bay Packers going to lose 3 straight games? What are your thoughts?
I like that you asked that question because that makes me like the Packers not to lose 3 straight games. Now, I'm seeing more of a chance of rain. I think we're going to see a lot of weather in the Northeast this weekend, perhaps. But I host a show called Gas Morning Drive with Andy Gresh, and he picked the Giants plus 7.5 yesterday. And we didn't know about Jameis Winston. And I said, and the only reason I don't like the 7.5 is if we're getting Russell Wilson. If you like Jameis Winston, maybe I'll take the 7.5. I saw a great tweet out there that said, Jameis Winston starting is great for both teams. I don't know exactly what to say. It was really funny, right? Great for the Giants. It might be great for the opponent too. That scares me from a Survivor standpoint, just that variable of Jameis Winston, right? And Kafka coaching, the Packers so uninspiring on offense. And all these Green Bay receivers, all these WR2s, Christian Watson, Romeo Doubs, Matthew Golden. But the guy they need, we've talked about him earlier, Jaden Reed. They desperately miss this guy. Averaged 60 catches over the last couple of years, played in 17 games his first year, 16 last year, averaging 825 yards. He's that missing piece. This offense just isn't flowing. Josh Jacobs has just been okay, 3.8 yards per carry. So for me, with a Giants defense that could perform, with a interim head coach that some really do believe in, and Jameis Winston, who has as good energy off the field as you can imagine, I think it gives them a fighting chance. But the comment about the Packers in terms of that defense and potentially, I think potentially it could be a good spot for the Packers. I just can't trust them at this point.
Yeah, hey, man, not trusting the Packers is completely reasonable after that tie earlier this season, after we saw them lose to the Browns earlier this season. You could even say this is a game where if you go down with the Packers, you don't sleep well at night because the Packers have shown you who they are. They've shown you that they're an inconsistent team. So I think everything that you're saying is completely fair. Someone had a comment that said, oh, here it is. The Packers haven't lost 3 in a row with LaFleur as coach. I didn't know that. That's news to me. That's a good take there. I like that. Couple injuries just to be aware of in this game. Elkin Jenkins, the Packers center, is out. He may miss the season. Zach Tom has a back issue. He wasn't at practice today. Jason, even if he plays, I got to bring this up because I lost my Westgate entry when the Packers had offensive line injuries in the middle of the game against the Browns. And I saw what a good Browns defensive front did to this banged up Packers offensive line with a bunch of backups. Now you've got a good Giants defensive front. We know Jenkins is out and Zach Tom has a back issue. Not hard to imagine Zach Tom starting this game and his back issue acting up and him getting pulled out mid-game. And now all of a sudden you got a good defensive front for the Giants against a banged up offensive line for the Packers, which you already lost the game that way. So I have some concerns here about the Packers. I just think there's a lot of uncertainty in this game, Jason. And part of what you're doing in Circa Survivor is trying to remove uncertainty, right? And we've got some people commenting about the new coach bump. That's possible. Do we know that for sure? No, but it's possible. So we've got some uncertainty there. Do we know how Jameis Winston is going to look in this offense? No, we've got some uncertainty there as well. So that alone concerns me about the Packers in this spot. And if I'm one of the 22.7% of people that have the Packers available, I think I want the Packers to show me that they've improved before I trust them in an uncertain spot like this against the Giants.
I would agree with that. And you deemed a term bullshit cushion. You made up a term bullshit cushion. I mean, gosh, there's no bullshit cushion when Jameis Winston is starting against you. And Mike, pull up that Packers schedule again, though, just to play devil's advocate a little bit. Because Tony, it's not going to surprise either one of us if Green Bay puts together a football game and Micah Parsons goes off and they stomp them. And in terms of a future value, right? I don't see a ton there for Green Bay. And I know you alluded to this. So if you're trying to maybe zigzag and think maybe as a 6.5 point favorite, maybe everyone's drinking some of that blue Kool-Aid in New York and you want to play Green Bay and you're bullish on that D, it might be a spot because I don't love any spots the rest of the way.
It's a very good point. And let's give Jason Anik in the running for the Earl Campbell jersey for making me think, because that's a good point. I mean, and go ahead and pull that up again, Mike, if you don't mind, that schedule. If you had to pick one after the Giants, I guess it's that Bears game at home, week 14. That's probably the next best, but the Giants matchup sure does feel a lot better than the week 11 matchup. So future value angle is a very, very good point from you. Good stuff.
And JJ McCarthy's injury, that Sunday game, 11-23, you're going at Detroit on Thanksgiving, right? That's going to be tough. Do you make sure you get the 23rd? I think that's a decent spot.
Yeah. Oh, man, you're on the same page with Elijah. Elijah said at the same exact time that you said.
There you go.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
All right. Next up, we've got Bengals at Steelers. Over 2,000 people watching live right now, Jason. I love it.
Let's go.
Bengals at Steelers. 84.6% of people have the Steelers available. Keep an eye on the weather for this one. We're saying we could have wind gusts up to 30 miles per hour. That is certainly going to affect longer passes. That's certainly going to affect kicks as well. Jason, I go back to when these teams met early this season on Thursday Night Football, and I asked you a question, and you and I disagreed on this. I said, would you rather take the Steelers in that spot that they were in on Thursday night in Cincinnati, or take the Steelers later when they were at home, but Cincinnati was off a bye, which they are this week? And I said, I like the Steelers better in that Thursday night spot. You said you liked them better in this spot. Well, the Steelers lose. So I was wrong on that. And I'm thinking it's kind of messing with my head because I'm like, well, I do like the Steelers better in that spot. They lost in the spot that I liked them better. So how can I like the Steelers in this spot? You know what I'm saying? But that game was just weird on Thursday night. I want to revisit it here and go through some stats. Ja'Marr Chase in that game had 16 catches, 161 yards, and a touchdown. Joe Flacco went off 342 yards and 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. I think, was that his first game? Was that his first game with Cincinnati?
I think
it might have been. Yeah. And then Chase Brown, running back for Cincinnati, terrible season all year long, and then goes off 11 carries for 108 yards. You can tell I'm still a little bitter. Lost a little bit of money on that game. But Darius Slay has a concussion. I think it's more likely than not that he misses this game. The Steelers do sign Asante Samuel, the free agent, to play cornerback. Personnel-wise, I mean, that Steelers defensive front should overpower the Bengals offensive line. But I felt the same way when they matched up the first time, and it just didn't happen. So that's giving me major pause here for the Steelers, who will have some revenge on their mind in this game. What are your thoughts?
This was one of the games that when I said I had a lot of options written for this week, this was one of those, especially after Joe Burrow went down. I love the Steelers, but I don't like them after seeing last week. Bengals come in off a bye. Joe Burrow, that practice window open, he's back. Does that give them a little bit of juice? They did beat them. But you talk about revenge spots. So I do like, and Mike Tomlin this week, he's like, I don't know how Aaron Rodgers played, right? I don't like the rumblings, didn't like the body language, the look on Aaron Rodgers' face. I think ultimately Pittsburgh gets it done. I think it's going to be wet. I think it's going to be sloppy. And I just feel like the Bengals won't be able to move the football the way they want. And I kind of like the Steelers, but potentially the Steelers are 5-4 right now. Like, the wheels are falling off at some point, whether it's going to be, a lot of people were bullish on this team at the beginning of the season. I wasn't one of them. Aaron Rodgers looked old to me before he got injured with the Jets. And those 4 plays, I'll never forget my brother saying to me, he looks a little, it catches up with you when you're a mobile guy. And I just ultimately, this spot, it would scare me to use Pittsburgh, but perhaps you want to go against the grain a little bit, because ultimately I think they find a way to scratch out a dub.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of people who don't have a choice this week and are going to have to use an Atlanta or a Pittsburgh.
Yep.
This is a front runner for making me laugh comment right here. How about this? With the 2 aging quarterbacks, someone called it the Hospice Bowl. That's pretty rough. That's good. If you like dark humor, that gets some points. That's
tell you what, Cal Friendo been firing some good comments tonight.
Absolutely,
might be the leader in the clubhouse.
Absolutely. Good stuff there. The Hospice Bowl. I like it. Yeah. So to recap, I want to like the Steelers, but I'm just feeling burned from that game earlier this season. Next up, the game that I think a lot of you guys tuned in to hear us talk about: Texans at Titans. Titans off a bye. 73.1% of people left in Circa Survivor. That's 731 people have the Texans available. It's looking like it's going to be Davis Mills and not CJ Stroud in this one. I'll read you Davis Mills' numbers from last week. He had the game-winning touchdown run, by the way. He was 27 for 45, 292 yards, 2 touchdowns, and an interception. I don't know what to make of those numbers, Jason, because I think a lot of those numbers were put up against the defense that was playing really loose when they were, up by 20 points at the time. So I don't want to give Davis Mills too much credit. Dalton Schultz didn't practice today for the Texans, so you might be without Dalton Schultz. You might be without CJ Stroud. Could you trust the Texans in Circa Survivor against the Titans here, Jason?
I think so. The defense goes a long way for me, and so does the head football coach. And I think the momentum off that 4th quarter win at home to find a way to go beat the worst team in football. I understand Tennessee's coming off a bye. Maybe Mike McCoy is implementing his system a little bit, but that Tennessee team is just, I believe, the worst team in the NFL. So ultimately, I would trust the Texans here, especially because I think it is a week where there are some vulnerabilities, right? Would you rather trust the Bills when you have Tampa Bay and Baker Mayfield coming in, or Davis Mills fading the Titans team? So the Texans are not out of it right now, and I think CJ Stroud is not going to be there. So Davis, I think it's extraordinarily unlikely. He's struggling in bright rooms right now. Like, he's not playing. So for me, the fact that Davis Mills another week, and the fact that they lost, but we didn't lose. We won. And now you're playing the worst team in football. I think I would look very hard at the Texans here if I were still alive.
Yeah, we had a comment remind us that Calvin Ridley was back at practice today. I think he was limited, but it was his first practice since injuring his hamstring in week 6.
Right.
So that could make a difference there for the Titans. Jason, does this game remind you a little of the Panthers game last week? You've got a team that's high owned with little future value. This is the spot to use them versus a bad opponent. We're projecting them at about 30% ownership. That game, I think a lot of us kind of knew was a bit of a trap from a Circa Survivor perspective. And I just wonder if this could be another trap on the Circa Survivor schedule back-to-back weeks here with the Texans. You bring up a lot of good points about why you like the Texans in this spot, and I agree with it all. I especially like the point about, the emotional win that they just got off of. This team is going to be fighting for their playoff lives. If they want any hope of being in the playoffs, they have to win this game. That makes me like the Texans, but team off a bye in the division, everybody's going to be on them. It kind of feels like a game I'd rather be rooting for the Titans here, if I'm being honest with you.
Yeah, no, I hear you. And ultimately, I guess for me, it comes down to Danielle Hunter, and even him, I guess, on the sidelines with Davis Mills last week, being like, we're going to do our thing. Just keep playing. They're not going to score anymore. Just keep playing. I don't know. Kelfrendo wants that jersey. I like it.
Love it.
But yeah, your point's well taken. It comes down to who you trust. And Tony, you are still in a position where you have multiple entries, right? So whether you're going, you might be diversified. We'll see how your path ends up. But I feel like the Titans may not win another game the rest of the season. So I'm not afraid to fade them.
Fair. Completely fair.
So I think that's it. You got anything else on that one?
That's it, brother.
That's that thick 1 o'clock slate. Let's move on to the 4 o'clocks. But before we do that, a word from our friends at Race Oracle. Attention racing fans. If you want an edge at the track, you need Race Oracle. This subscription service uses advanced AI modeling built on over 200,000 historical races, crunching hundreds of data points from weather and track conditions to jockey history and speed ratings. Race Oracle gives you proprietary win percentages, Kelly betting strategies, and live odds tracking, covering every race in North America, plus the UK and Ireland, so you can bet around the clock with confidence. Don't guess, predict smarter. Subscribe today and start betting with data, not luck. We in the past have tied some of the Race Oracle stuff to the Broncos or the Colts. But it's just when I talk about horseshoe up the ass for the Broncos, it just makes so much sense with that team all year and anyone who is on them. But appreciate Chris Legendry and all the folks over at Race Oracle helping us out all year long. All right.
Absolutely.
First game, 4 o'clock slate, your 49ers. And I'm going to start here, if you don't mind, because you always influence my opinion. But
get it.
On the other show we do a segment called Podium Picks, where we do a bronze, silver, and gold medal game. We pick 3 games against the spread. And both Gresh and I, our gold medal selection was the 49ers -2.5 at the Cardinals. I'm seeing it at 3 most places. This is a straight Arizona fade in terms of me liking San Francisco. Jacoby Brissett had a tough day at Seattle. We thought maybe that would happen. The 49ers defense, though, is just too banged up. If I'm a Survivor contestant, they're just too banged up for me to trust. I know you'll know more of that. I think there's a little bit of a zigzag spot where I like San Francisco, and I still think San Francisco has something to play for despite sort of knowing they're up against it in that division. And Arizona feels like the wheels are coming off. They're 1-3 at home. San Francisco 4-2 on the road. Both those numbers are the same against the spread. One thing about the 49ers, though, second from the bottom of the league in turnover differential at -8. That concerns me a little bit, but ultimately I'm fading the Cardinals. So I like San Francisco quite a bit here, but I don't think I could trust them in Survivor. Your thoughts?
Yeah, a lot of injuries to talk about in this one. Marvin Harrison Jr. out with appendicitis. That came out of nowhere. Did you like the 49ers +2.5 even before that, or did that kind of factor into your decision?
-2.5. Yes, before that, ultimately. And I have great respect for Harrison Jr.'s game, but a receiver isn't going to move it for me in that spot with Jacoby Brissett under center.
Yep. And then Zay Jones tears his Achilles last week too. So now the Cardinals wide receivers are Michael Wilson. He's okay, but he's not a number one receiver. He's going to have to be in this game. Greg Dortch is now your second best receiving option.
Touchdown last week.
And then next up, we got Xavier Weaver and Andre Baselia, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. Combined between them, they have 7 career catches. So what I'm trying to say is that this Cardinals receiving core is very, very, very banged up. I love fading teams that have cluster injuries, and the Cardinals certainly do have cluster injuries in this game. We had a comment here from Elijah, says, battle of the backups, Niners Cards. I don't know about that. I think Brock Purdy might play in this one. He was back in practice at least a little bit this week. The 49ers might have Ricky Pearsall and Brock Purdy back. We will see. If we have the 49ers schedule, Mike, if you can pull it up. If we don't, it's okay. But I just want to point out that the next 4 games the 49ers have are really interesting from a Circa Survivor perspective.
I got them. You want me to tell you them?
Yeah.
Yeah, so they're at Arizona and then home to Carolina, at Cleveland, bye week, home to Tennessee.
All right. Fascinating because they're 98.3% owned. Everybody's got them in Circa Survivor. 983 people of 1,000 have them. So you got to be thinking about, where am I going to deploy the 49ers? It's probably going to be in one of these next 4 weeks. We talked with Grant Cohn earlier this season. He said he doesn't like the 49ers matchup against the Browns. You obviously got to like the Niners off a bye against the Titans, but you got to get there first, as you always remind me. Maybe you deploy the Niners this week against the Cardinals or next week against the Panthers when less people are going to be on them, because I think a lot more people are saving them for the Titans and Browns, and even to some degree the Panthers next week as well. So you're going to use the Niners in one of the next 4 weeks, I think. And I think there's going to be probably the least amount of people on them this week. And that's a reason that makes me at least consider the 49ers. And you got me all gassed up when you're talking about how much you like that matchup as well. But yeah, here's that schedule. I don't think you're using them week 18 against Seattle, even week 17 against the Bears, maybe. Certainly not against the Colts week 16. But yeah, those next 4 weeks look really
I tell you what, Tony, if I'm a 49ers fan, it really is interesting. I understand they're up against it in the division, but this is not a difficult schedule. So Brock Purdy, right? You know I am not a fan of Mac Jones, but you are a 49ers fan. You get all sorts of different opinions, and I know this is a Survivor show, but Brock Purdy is your selection when healthy. Am I wrong?
Yeah, for sure. Mac Jones has been a good, well above average, adequate backup. Yeah. There are some whispers from 49er fans about Mac Jones is better. And it's not even a close decision to me, honestly.
I agree with you. Thank God.
Yeah. 100%.
Great stuff on the 49ers. But Tony, as a 49ers fan, are they just ultimately too banged up, even with that light schedule, do you think, on the defensive side?
Super Bowl, absolutely. I mean, at this point, as a 49er fan, it stinks because I have zero hope, and I mean zero hope, that they win the Super Bowl without Bosa, etc. So they're probably going to make the playoffs and lose in the first round, or just miss the playoffs, which is the worst place to be for a sports fan, because now you don't even get a good draft pick to look forward to. You don't make the playoffs, and you don't have a draft pick to look forward to. So tough season for 49er fans, but you and I are in agreement that we both like them in that spot.
And the main reason it's a tough is because this next game, Seahawks at Rams, right? Both teams 7-2, both teams 7-2 against the spread. Both have won 4 straight overall and against the spread. This game's fascinating for me, right? Seattle's at Tennessee next week. If you still have Seattle available, they also are at Carolina week 17. So some future value there. Some future value on the Rams too. They're at Carolina. They got 2 games against Arizona down the stretch. I wouldn't touch this from a Survivor standpoint, but I like LA a lot here, Tony. I'm just going to be honest with you. And I know maybe a lot of people like Seattle, but not a good day for Sam Darnold last week, despite the Seahawks blowing out Arizona. 3 turnovers. Now Sam Darnold, 6 turnovers in his last 3 games, going up against Stafford, who's the league MVP for my money. 20 touchdowns, as we said, since week 4, no picks. Not a better 1-2 combo. Puka Nacua, Devontae Adams. This Ram team's just balanced. 5th best offense, allowing the 2nd fewest points in all of football. I think these teams are evenly matched, but I believe there's a big advantage in the quarterback despite Sam Darnold elevating. I like the Rams a lot here, but wouldn't touch it from a Survivor standpoint. Your thoughts?
Agree that I wouldn't touch it from a Survivor standpoint. Disagree in that I actually like Seattle a little bit better from a betting perspective. I've got a money line bet in my account right now on them. I just look at it as I actually have Seattle ranked slightly better than the Rams, and I'm not giving the Rams any points in my handicap for home field advantage. 1, because it's SoFi, and 2, because Seattle's really damn good on the road.
Yeah.
11-1 straight up in their last 12 road games under Mike Macdonald. 5-0 as road underdogs in their last 5 games under Mike Macdonald. So this team, for whatever reason, travels really well. A couple other notes in this one. The Rams kicker, the thicker kicker they call him, he still hasn't attempted a field goal in the NFL because he only kicked extra points last week. So in a game that odds makers are telling you is going to be a close game, just know that you've got a kicker that might be a little shaky, in a clutch situation. FYI on that. Seattle, 29.4% owned. The Rams, 11.8% owned. You bring up some great points about some spots to use Seattle down the road. This is kind of my 10-foot pole game of the week because although I do like the Seattle side, if I had Seattle available in Circa Survivor, which I don't, I would absolutely be saving them. So want nothing to do with it.
Yeah, I'm going to be really interested to see how that game plays out and if it's a great game and it comes down to a play or two or if one team sort of stands up, if you will. So, yeah, I agree. Going to be more Seahawks fans at SoFi than Rams fans, you can be sure.
Stevie Penn giving out a signed Dak Prescott jersey if you make him laugh.
A signed Dak Prescott helmet.
Season of giving.
I can make Stevie Pan. Can I not make Stevie? If I can't make Stevie Pan, well, we're already an hour 05. Maybe I got like 15, 20 minutes to make Stevie Pan laugh.
You got time. Next up, Ravens at Browns. 71.1% of people have the Ravens available. Can't talk about this game without mentioning that the Ravens play the Jets next week. I think in a very popular spot, potentially. Ravens also have that Bengals game that we talked about on Thanksgiving. So even if you like the Ravens in this spot, tons of future value to consider. I will say this, it's the 3rd straight road game for the Ravens. I don't like that. And the Browns had a bye in week 9, so they did get a little rest 2 weeks ago. They're not fresh off a bye, but I think that matters against a team that is playing their 3rd straight road game. Harbaugh versus Stefanski, since Stefanski's been the head coach in Cleveland since 2020. 4-3 straight up, 3-4 ATS. Overall, excuse me, back up. Harbaugh is 7-4 straight up, 7-4 ATS since Stefanski came in the league. More recently, though, 4-3 straight up, 3-4 ATS. So Stefanski has scored some upsets against this Ravens team each of the last 2 years, Jason. Last year, Cleveland won as a 7-point underdog against Baltimore. Took out some Survivor folks, I'm sure. Prior year, Cleveland wins as a 6-point underdog straight up. So it shouldn't surprise anybody if Cleveland wins this game as a 7.5-point underdog. Be careful out there if you like the Ravens, folks.
31% chance of rain. Interesting spot that this is a 4:00 game, right? And remember the 4:00 window last week got 3 games. All 3 games are like 44-22, right?
Yeah.
So I feel as though I like the Ravens quite a bit here. The rain may get in the way, but I just think Baltimore is on a tour. They're getting to 500 here. They're getting to 500 here. They're not, I don't care what happened last year. I don't like them quite as much on Thanksgiving if Joe Burrow's playing, but I still like them quite a bit. I love them next week at home to the Jets the week before Thanksgiving. And you talked about that spot on a prior show. Yep. We talk a lot about Thanksgiving, but look at that week prior to Thanksgiving. But I think the Ravens have as good a chance as any team in football to win out. They're going to be favored, in my opinion, in every game. I think they'll be slightly favored home to New England week 16, slightly. And at Green Bay week 17, maybe not, but it'll be close. But every other game, they're going to be favored. And I think by the end of the season, we might be saying this is the best team in football. And if I were in this contest, I'd be rooting for carnage at 1:00 and playing the Ravens at 4:00, unless you may want to save them. But I just believe they're on a tear, and I actually like it's a 3rd straight road game. They're getting to 500 here. They were 1-5 or whatever it is. I believe in a wide open AFC. In the same way Joe Burrow's starting to feel a little juice, so is Harbaugh, Lamar Jackson, and that team. I don't see them losing at Cleveland this weekend.
Good stuff from you, man. I looked up on Survivor Atlas. 205 people have both Baltimore and Seattle available. That's not a bad move to take Baltimore this week and then Seattle next week instead of Baltimore on the Jets, right?
Yeah.
That's a nice 1-2 punch.
I like that you focus on the 1-2 punch because you executed a very good 1-2 punch, I think, with Chargers, Rams the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, the
And
whole week 9, week 13 swapperoo thing. Yep, absolutely.
Yep.
By the way, wind in this game, maybe gusts upward of 30, 35 miles per hour if we didn't mention that already. So keep an eye on the weather. Next up, Chargers at Broncos. Jason,
Chiefs at Broncos.
Excuse me, Chiefs at Broncos. I apologize. I don't have a ton to say about this game, except I think it's going to be a good recon game, good reconnaissance game for Christmas when these two teams meet up again in Kansas City. 12% chance of rain. Bo Nix looks bad. We already talked about that. No J.K. Dobbins at practice. He might go on IR. So when I look at how do you beat the Chiefs, it's run the ball and keep Patrick Mahomes off the field. The fact that the Broncos aren't going to have Dobbins is a big deal. I would certainly lean Chiefs in this game, but this is sort of another 10-foot pole candidate for me. I don't want anything to do with this from a Circa Survivor perspective.
Yeah, I agree. Chiefs off a bye. Andy Reid, 22-4 in the regular season off a bye. 13-1 with the Eagles, 8-3 with the Chiefs. That's the best in NFL history there. And I think they're the more desperate team. 5-4 facing an 8-2 team that's just has fucking horseshoes up their ass. They've won 7 straight. So I think the desperate Chiefs get it done here. I just like them here to sort of find a way. But I agree, I'm not touching it in the contest.
For sure. And the Chiefs just have so much value in Circa Survivor with a matchup against the Cowboys on Thanksgiving and then that matchup with the Broncos again on Christmas. All right, Lions at Eagles, Sunday Night Football. I've seen 33% chance of rain in this one. No Penei Sewell or Aiden Hutchinson at practice for the Lions. Another 10-foot pole game of the week for me. Want nothing to do with it. Both of these teams just have monstrous future value moving forward. So even if I liked one of these two teams, which I don't have conviction, I wouldn't be touching it. No, thank you from Circa Survivor perspective. How about you?
I agree. And I like giving the audience my feel, even if my feels often change from Wednesday to Saturday, but I don't really know what to expect from Philly's offense. I feel as though Detroit's just going to be able to do more offensively, ultimately. Wouldn't touch it in Survivor, but that Philadelphia spot home to Chicago on Thanksgiving, if you have Philadelphia, that was a spot we talked about them at the beginning of the season.
Yep.
And the season ebbs and flows, but that spot still looks maybe like the best spot for Thanksgiving because I trust Philadelphia and Detroit available on both holidays. So if you have them, hang on to them.
Absolutely. All right. This Monday night game, I'm looking for a comment because someone alluded to this game earlier and it was a little too early to bring up the comment. But anyways, Monday Night Football, Cowboys at Raiders. Cowboys off a bye. I think this is going to be a fascinating game from an emotional perspective, Jason, because we had the death of Marshawn Nealon, active player on the Cowboys, just scored a touchdown 2 or 3 days before he commits suicide. Like, you can only imagine what's going on in that Cowboys locker room. And, I don't want to take lightly his death, but we have to talk football here because we are a football show. You do have to wonder how this is going to impact that locker room. Do they rally around this? Let's go win one for Marshawn. Or, after going to the funeral and all that, are these guys just heads not in the right place, dealing with grief, etc.? And not just a death, but a suicide as well, which can kind of come with some other emotions, maybe guilt. I didn't do something sooner. I mean, who knows what these guys are dealing with? Awful place to be in if you're a Cowboys fan, and tough to play football, a week after that. I think the bye week timing is maybe a little bit helpful for them, but wouldn't be surprised if the Cowboys rallied around it and won by 20, and you couldn't blame the Cowboys for coming out and sleepwalking in this game after what they've all been through.
It's a really good point. I wouldn't touch it from a Survivor standpoint, but the death gives me pause because I think it's an interesting spot with Dallas, right? I think they're favored for a reason. Their next 2 games, they're hosting the Eagles and the Chiefs. So sitting at 3-5-1, pretty important game for Dallas against an inferior opponent. I understand Dallas leaves a lot to be desired defensively, but the component that you opened my mind a little bit there, because I think that if I really felt as though they would rally around this tragedy, then maybe I would peek at them to be on an island.
Yeah, and the thing is, if you take Dallas here, what you can't do, which I think a lot of people are planning on doing, is you can't go into Christmas with Dallas and Washington. I think a lot of people have burned the Chiefs already. A lot of people have burned the Lions already. And they're saying, you know what? I'm just going to keep both Dallas and Washington. And whoever looks better, whoever's healthier, whoever the favorite is, that's who I'm going to take on Christmas. So if you burn Dallas here, you can't do that. So I would only really recommend Dallas here for people that have either Detroit or Kansas City still available. When we talk about the moves that the Cowboys made at the trade deadline, they're bringing in Quinnen Williams, bringing in Logan Wilson. I'll tell you a name that nobody's talking about, this dude Overshawn, who's coming back to the Cowboys, ready to play his first game this week. He had 5 sacks last year, 78.9 pass rush grade from PFF. That's 11th best out of all linebackers. So they're going to be improving their pass rush on the outside when they get Quinnen Williams to help out a little bit on the inside. So you got this Dallas team that we've never been concerned about their offense. They've got a good offense. And now maybe their defense can be at least average with these 3 additions when you count Overshawn in there, right? So I think Dallas becomes a really intriguing team in Circa Survivor. And like I said earlier, 722 people right now have both them and Washington available and are maybe thinking what I'm thinking in terms of saving them both. You know, I do worry about Vegas, a town that has a lot of distractions, a lot of strip clubs, a lot of temptation to stay out late when you got a team coming in. I don't love putting my Circa Survivor entry on a team visiting Las Vegas just because you don't know what's happening off the field. Just something to consider and think about, especially a team that already has a lot of stuff on their mind.
Yeah.
But hopefully we've given you guys something to chew on in terms of this Cowboys game, because I think it is a sneaky little spot. And
I bumped into CeeDee Lamb in a casino before. So yeah.
Did you?
Right?
No, in Vegas?
He was at the cashier, you know, a nice fat stack of chips. Yeah. So
was it during the season or in the off season?
No, it was after last season. They had been eliminated. It was during the playoffs.
Protecting the shield, protecting CeeDee Lamb. I like it. You're a corporate guy over there, Jason. I like it. Good stuff. Hey, you promised that you were going to talk a little bit about this splash tournaments that we're in. So give me some info, man.
So the main one we're in, like I alluded to on the top, was the 350,000 extra bloody survivor. So we have to pick 3 games. So we'll briefly talk about those 3. Okay. And then the other one, which is the 2,500 touchdown survivor week 11, we have to select 2 players for touchdowns.
Okay.
So we're going to get to that, but I just want to let you know the other 2 that I entered us, right? I entered us in 2 other contests. One of them is a $5,000 NFL Survivor where we only have to pick 1 team, right? So I definitely think before we leave tonight, we should pick 1 team for that splash $5,000 contest. And then there's another small one I entered where we need to pick 3 teams. So I think for right now, I think we should throw out a couple touchdown scores real quick and then hone in on 1 team for Survivor and maybe a couple that we're thinking of. I'm going to start with the touchdown scores if you don't mind. Right. So we need 2 players can't be on the same team. Right. I'm just going to throw a couple names at you. If you have a name, fine. Bijan Robinson, only 2 rushing touchdowns all season. He's got 2 receiving touchdowns, but he has 5 touchdowns in 5 career games against the Panthers. I think maybe he gets it done. Kamani Vidal, 25 carries last week. We both like the Chargers a lot. I think maybe he gets in. Josh Jacobs, New York Giants run defense, terrible. Sean Tucker, Buffalo defense, terrible. So there's 4 backs. Bijan Robinson, Kamani Vidal, Josh Jacobs, Sean Tucker. Any touchdown scores on your brain?
James Cook comes to mind because I think that's a good matchup against the Bucs, who've given up some long runs this year. I got a question for you, Jason. Like, should I be thinking long term? Is this a 1-week contest, or is this like a we can't use these guys again down the road?
Given our suspect performance in the splash contests thus far,
we're struggling.
We're not going to think about anything down the road. We need to survive. And one of the contests where we lost last week, we had to pick 2 losers. We picked the 49ers who lost and the Patriots who didn't lose. That's what kicked us out. But the Bills kicked us out of the survivor tone. We had Rams, Broncos, Bills kicked us out. So we had 2 of the 3. But anyway.
All right. In that case, if we're just trying to survive, which you bring up really good points that we should. How about Jalen Hurts? Sunday Night Football, little tush-push action against the Lions. You like that?
Love it. I love it. So Tony and I will talk offline. We'll let you know. Maybe we'll push out a tweet letting you know who we selected, or go enter the friggin' contest with us. I think it's only $10. Get in that one, or $25, whatever it is. Get in with us. So Tone, I know you're keeping things closer to the vest as you try to win this thing in Circa Survivor. But as we look at the Splash Survivor contests, throw a name of a team out that maybe you think you want to be one of our 3 entries, or maybe that one sole entry in the entry where we only need 1.
All right, and just to clarify, this is basically the same contest we joined last week and lost, but it's starting this week, right? We picked 3 winners.
Exactly.
Okay.
We picked 3 winners.
Cool,
so,
cool.
But there's another one that I entered where we only pick 1. So I think for right now, we don't have to settle on the 3 completely, but we could talk through it a little bit.
I'd really like to have Buffalo in there. I like that Buffalo matchup, especially if there's weather involved. I think that can help them a little bit.
I agree.
You like that one? Okay.
So the Ravens, I feel as though I'm far more bullish on the Ravens than you.
No, I like it. I like it. I don't like it from a Circa Survivor perspective, but I like the game because of the holiday implications, all that. I like that a lot. And then how about we both like the 49ers in this spot? And I don't think there'll be a lot of people on them. So how about
I love it. I love it. And I think saving the Patriots is a good thing. Saving the Lions, right? I know we're not thinking too long terms, but I think Bills, Ravens, 49ers makes a lot of sense.
Nice.
Good stuff tonight. Appreciate 2,000 plus joining us live as we party in red tone.
Absolutely. Good stuff. All right. And I think producer Mike is going to help us make this decision now to see who wins.
Yeah, a lot of good comments tonight.
And I see a lot of people are still tuned in. So I think people are excited to see if they're going to win or not. 2,500 right now on Twitter watching live. I love it. I'm not good at holding this thing up.
I love the pressure on Mike Jones. All right. What do we got?
Here we go, baby.
All right, boys. I took the pressure off of myself. And I found 3 people who I think are deserving. I made a spin wheel with their 3 names.
I like this. Okay.
And we're going to play that right now.
Dude, you're the man.
A very loyal listener, comments all the time. So I like that it goes to one of our regulars.
I agree.
This is going to be in the mail to you, Elijah. Hit us up, DM us on Twitter with an address, and we'll pay for the shipping and everything. We'll take care of it for you. And give me that address, and we'll mail it to you in the next week or so.
Dude, great spin of the wheel, Mike. And appreciate everyone commenting. Like, we had a lot of fun tonight. And our guy Tony's still alive. I tell you, when he wins this thing, it's going to get a lot more interesting for the Last Men Standing podcast. You could be sure.
Yeah. I don't know if you're jinxing me or manifesting it, but either way,
I'm manifesting it, baby.
Right.
I've been telling you since last year. I got receipts. I am not jinxing nothing.
By the way, bad beat for the other 2 people on the wheel. That's tough, man. Tough. You got to come back. And maybe you guys can win one in the future. But congratulations to Elijah. I think we've done all that we can here tonight. To hit that thumbs up button on YouTube, please. It's a huge, huge help. We really appreciate you guys. We'll see you next week, 7 p.m. on Wednesday.
Lines are set, the odds are high. Every bet a test who will survive. Chasing stacks, outlast the crowd. Only the strongest left now. Who's ready to win? This is more than gambling. Let's start the show.